After this lesson, you will be able to understand the major components that involve in post-harvest technology. Second, you could be able to determine the stages and the main element in post-harvest system. And the last one, able to identify the factors affecting post-harvest losses. Post-harvest processing is geared toward conserving good produce, processed good, and value added to make the material more readily usable and economically remunerative. Post-harvest technology is becoming increasingly important for increasing agriculture productivity, and growers intend to become a producer-cum-processor by using processing technologies. Post-harvest technology is an interdisciplinary science and technology which apply to post-harvest agriculture products for their productions, conservation, processing, packaging, distribution, and marketing in order to meet the people food and nutrition requirements with their needs. Post-harvest technology involves all treatments or processes that occur from harvesting until the food reaches the final consumer. Efficient techniques for harvesting, conveying, handling, storage, processing, packaging, marketing, and utilization are the components of the post-harvest chain. The post-harvest system encompasses a sequence of activities and operations that can be divided into two groups, which are technical activities and economic activities. For the technical activities, it is including harvesting, drying, threshing, cleaning, additional drying, storage, and processing. However, the economic activities consist of transport, marketing, quality control, nutrition, expansion, information and communication, administration, and management. The importance of post-harvest technology is able to increase in land and labor productivity in order to increase the total production. Besides, it can minimize the post-harvest losses and increase the availability of distribution. Post-harvest processing also can maintain or enhance the quality of the products and make them easily marketable. Post-harvest technology can meet the growing population's food requirements by eliminating the avoidable loss of more nutritious food products. This process has resulted in a capital outflow from rural to urban areas and increased the employment opportunities in rural areas. It also helped to create more jobs and more income. Then, the investment in post-harvest measures is more economical and time-saving than production activities in order to obtain a particular commodity quantity. Other than that, poverty will be decreased through economic growth and social development and will enhance the employment opportunities for rural women. Lastly, the post-harvest technology has the potential in order to develop industries in rural areas. The stage for post-harvest systems are conceived of harvesting, threshing, drying, storing, processing, product evaluation, packaging, marketing, use, and consumer preference. There are 8 main elements of post-harvest system. The first element is harvesting. The time of harvesting shall be determined by the degree of maturity. For example, in cereal and pulses, a distinction should be made between the maturation of stalk, ears or seed pod, and seeds, which affect the successive of the operation, especially in storage and preservation. However, harvesting before maturity involves the risk of losses due to the mold and some of the seeds decay. The next element is pre-harvest drying, where it applies mainly to cereal and pulses. Extended pre-harvest field drying will ensure good preservation, but at the same time, it may increase the risk of loss due to the attack by birds, rodents, and insects. The third element is transport. Much care is needed to transport a truly matured harvest in order to prevent the detached grain from failing on the route before it reaches the storage or the threshing site. Thus, the collection and initial transport for the harvest is depend on the location and the condition which it is to be stored and threshed. Other than that, post-harvest drying is another element in post-harvest where the length of time is required for the full drying of the ears and grain, where it depends on the weather and atmospheric conditions. Product may be wasted on unprotected drying floors due to the livestock, birds, rodents, or small ruminants or other factors. On the other hand, if the grain is not dry enough, it is vulnerable to mold and may rot during storage. Moreover, if the grain is too dry, it will become brittle and crack after threshing, crushing, or milling. This applies especially to rice when milling takes place for a long time after the grain has matured, where it can cause severe losses. During the winnowing process, broken grain can be removed, with the husk and more susceptible to certain insects. Finally, if the grain is too dry, it means a loss of weight and loss of money at the time of sale. For threshing, if the harvest is threshed before it is dry enough, this operation will most likely be incomplete. Furthermore, the supposed grain is threshed when it is moist and immediately stored in granaries or bags. In that case, it will be much more susceptible to attack by microorganisms, thus limiting its preservation. In addition, the facilities, hygiene, and monitoring must all be adequate for efficient and long-term storage in order to control the cleanliness, temperature, and humidity, which is very important in closed structures. Damage caused by pests and molds may lead to deterioration of facilities and maybe result in loss of quality and the quantity of the food. Processing is one of the elements for post-harvest. Excessive crushing and threshing may also result in a loss of grain, which may have cracks and injuries and become vulnerable to insects. Lastly, marketing is the final and decisive element of the post-harvest system and can occur at various agro-food chains, especially in some processing stage. These elements cannot be separated from the transport, which is an essential link in the system. This table shows the comparison between the properties of non-perishable food crops and perishable food crops. The non-perishable food crops is a product with a low level of moisture and weight less than 1 gram, while the perishable food crops are products with a high level of moisture and weight from 5 grams to 5 kilograms. For non-perishable food crops, the seasonal harvest commonly needs a long storage duration. Preliminary treatment before storage is exceptional. Hard tissues, long natural disposition periods, and losses during storage is mainly due to exogenous factors. However, the perishable food crops is commonly needed for short-term storage, need drying process as an alternative, soft tissues, short natural disposition period, and losses during storage is partly due to endogenous factors. The post-harvest losses. In developing countries, nearly 65% of lost food occur at 3 stages, such as production, processing, and the post-harvest. Depending on the crops, between 15 and 35% of food may be lost before it even leaves the field. The typical range of weight losses for various links in the post-harvest chain can be seen in Figure 1. According to the previous study, the losses are measurable reduction in food, and may affect the quantity and the quality of the food. Therefore, the loss should not be confused with damage, which is a visible sign of deterioration and can only be partial. Damage restricts the use of the product, while loss make it use impossible. Besides, damage is a clear deterioration of the product, which affects most of the quality rather than its quantity, and may lead to a definite loss in the long term. Damage and loss should be quantified in terms of weight and cost. The grain may be lost in 3 stages, including pre-harvest, harvesting, and post-harvest. The pre-harvest losses occur before the harvesting process begins and may be due to insect, weeds, and diseases, while the harvest losses occur between the beginning and the end of the harvesting and are mainly due to shattering losses. And the post-harvest losses occur between the harvest and the time of human consumption. These include farm losses such as when the grain is threshed, winnowed, and dried, and it is will lost along the chain during the transport, storage, and the processing. There are 8 types of losses in post-harvest, including irreducible losses and compensation, quantitative, qualitative, direct, indirect, weak, quality, and the commercial loss. The first one is the quantitative loss. The quantitative loss is a loss in physical substance, which means a decrease in weight and volume, and it can be assessed and measured. The second one is qualitative loss. The main concern in qualitative loss is the food and reproductive value of the products and require a different type of assessment. The direct loss is occur when the food loss is caused by the leakage of pests, while the indirect loss happen when a reduction in quality which lead to a consumer refusal of purchase. The weight loss is easy to observe, measure, and it does not necessarily mean a loss of food, as it can only result from a reduction in moisture content. On the other hand, an abnormal increase in weight due to moisture absorption which caused by the rainfall can cause severe damage resulting in losses. The weight loss may be caused by the leakage, which resulting in prolonged infestation and consumption of insects, rodents, birds, or poor packaging. Besides, the quality loss is a quality criteria which cover a wide range and concern external features, shape, size, odor, and taste. It is also essential to bear in mind the cultural factors that can influence diet and eating habits. Cleanliness and the healthy condition of the product are the market primary concern and correspond to what is referred to as a sound, legal, and commercial product in commercial law. Many other objects may be mixed with food and reduce the product value, including the pieces of glass, soil, plant residue, and others. These objects are difficult to remove, but some of them pose a higher risk of contamination than others, such as pesticide. Next, the commercial loss. The commercial loss is the translation of the various type of losses into economic and monetary terms. Although the price of food is usually based on weight, but other factors such as cleanliness and purity will be prioritized even more if the supplies are abundant in the marketplace. This kind of market-oriented attitude is depend on the individual skills and several technical and economic factors. Lastly, the irreducible losses is the losses that arise essentially from the respiration of the product and the mechanical rubbing of grain against itself, as well as the inevitable rupture with individual machine. Therefore, it should be always remembered that losses, whether pre-harvested or post-harvested, cannot be materially reduced to zero and must be compensated through extra production. The factors affecting the post-harvest losses are divided into 7 elements. Firstly, pre-harvest production practice. Pre-harvest production may have a severe impact on the quality and the quantity of the post-harvest and will result in rejection or downgrading of the product at the time of sale, which including water supply, soil fertility, cultivation practice, and use of agrochemicals. Secondly, harvesting and field handling. Quality cannot be improved after harvest but can only be maintained. Therefore, it is necessary to harvest fruit and vegetable at the appropriate stage and size. Harvest should be complete during the coolest time of the day, usually early in the morning, and the production should be kept shaded in the field. Handling should be done with care and gentleness, where the crops intended for storage should be as free as possible from spot, decay, and other deterioration. However, the harvesting damage can be prevented by, firstly, training the harvest labor to handle the crop gently. Second, harvesting at proper maturity. Third, harvesting dry whenever possible, and handling each fruit or vegetable no more than necessary, as well as installing the padding. Besides packing or packaging, for the most part, the preparation of the product for the market is carried out in the packing house. The pad house handling includes the sorting, cleaning, fungicide treatment, and the quality selection as well as the grading. The suitable package and handling techniques can reduce the amount of damage to which fresh produce is exposed during marketing. The packaging should be designed to prevent physical damage to products and be easy to handle. The storage is one of the factors that affect the post-harvest, where the temperature is the most critical factor in maintaining the post-harvest quality. The following elements of deterioration in perishable crops are delayed by the refrigerated storage. The first element is aging due to ripening, softening, texture, and the color changes. Secondly, undesirable metabolic changes and the production of respiratory heat. Thirdly, the loss of moisture. And the last one, spoilage due to invasion by bacteria, fungi, and yeast. One of the most important functions of refrigeration is to control the respiration rate of the crops. The higher of the temperature of the storage, the higher the rate of the respiration. For refrigeration to be effective in postponing deterioration, it is crucial to keep the temperature in cold storage room as constant as possible. Storage room should be well insulated and adequate refrigerated and allow air circulation to prevent the temperature variation. The transportation is a major and often the most significant factor in the marketing of fresh produce. The transport would take the product directly from the grower to the consumer. Damage and losses incurred during unrefrigerated transport are mainly due to the mechanical damage and overheating. Mechanical damage reduces the storage and capacity and the quality. However, the overheating promotes the natural breakdown, decay, and increases the rate of water loss from the production. The cause of mechanical damage are careless handling of packaged product during loading and unloading, vibration of the vehicle, fast driving and poor vehicle condition, and the last one is the packages stuck too high. However, the overheating happens when use of closed vehicles with no ventilation, closed store stacking pattern that block the movement of air between and through packages, and lastly, the lack of adequate ventilation of the packages. Also, the market handling, such as improper handling, may cause damage to crops, especially perishable products. Last but not least, perishability of the products influence the sensitivity to post-harvest damage.